Welcome. Welcome. I'm Shirley Strom-Kenny. I'm the interim president here, and I want to thank all of you for being here with us today. Excuse me, for being here with us in so many ways, for caring about our universities. And I would just like to note one individual in the audience, and that is Henrik Norlander, who was on our 2 NCAA national championship golf teams. So, Henrik. And Carter Newman.
There you go.
An amazing, amazing feat. We are very proud. I just want to mention how we're going to run the forum today. There will be microphones for people to ask your questions. I would ask that you ask no more than one question so we can get around to everybody who wants to ask a question. And then if there's time at the end, certainly come back for another question. But let's give everybody a chance. And with those simple game rules established, I want to introduce my colleague, Dr. Ricardo Aziz.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us as well today. As you know, for those of you who've been at forums, we like to do these. We hear a lot of good comments and questions, but it's mostly to get questions and answers out, and very often I'll turn them over to the staff, and Dr. Kinney, of course, might do the same, so we appreciate you being here. Let me take the opportunity first because we seem to be sometimes the entertainer and sometimes the entertainment in the media in Augusta, and it is important, however, to make sure that you understand and hear from me and others about some of the questions that you have heard out there, particularly around the naming process. So let me take 2 minutes of time and give you that perspective, so that will help frame what may be some of your questions that will be coming up. Now, the question really arose as follows. There is a vision for the Consolidated University. That vision is actually set by the Chancellor and the Board of Regents. And the vision is for this university, as we consolidate, to really become a statewide entity with both a national and a global emphasis, and to really be a great university located in Augusta. Certainly that university should embrace the health sciences, but it should be much more than a health sciences university. So that's a vision that we can embrace, and we really should feel very excited about. And in fact, our leaders feel that we are able to actually do that. The second thing that I think is important before talking about the naming process is to speak about the challenges. And change is tough, but we do have some significant challenges ahead. The state budget continues to be cut so that the amount of monies that actually are able to be used to support higher ed institutions is declining. Healthcare is changing. The way we provide health and health professions training is changing dramatically. We have a significant issue with freshman graduation rates, particularly on the ASU campus. We have issues with decreasing enrollment. We have issues with capital and facilities that are aging and continuing to get older. And so all of those kind of issues are things that we have to address as a new university. Now, I will also start by saying that I know change is very hard. And I also know that the person who actually is at the forefront, and that's why I have the title that I do, is difficult. And I recognize it, I honor it, but unfortunately, if we don't move forward as a community, as a university, we will become less relevant, and we will be taken over over time. We would just lose our competitiveness. So let's talk a little bit about the naming process, because that was the vision, right? That was the mandate. That is the key. They said, this is what you need to build in the institution with your colleagues, with the faculty. This needs to be of greater value to students in Georgia, greater value to students in the region, greater value and opportunities for faculty, and you need to build something bigger, but as Dr. Kinney reminds me, you know, not necessarily with more monies, but with something bigger. So the naming process started out through what we call a consolidated work group. A consolidated work group is a group appointed by the chancellor that has about 20 or 25 individuals there that are actually community members, individuals from both ASU and GHSU, in fact, in pretty much equal numbers. And it serves as an advisory, in an advisory capacity to the chancellor and to the Board of Regents. An advisory because all we can do is advise. The chairman of that consolidated work group is myself, and I serve as chair. Now, that consolidated work group works through a series of other networks of groups. There's actually about 75 work teams being coordinated what is called a CAT, or a Consolidated Action Team. It's a group of, again, shared administrators who are overseeing this very complicated process. And one of those subcommittees deals with what is called branding. So there's a branding subcommittee or work team that actually started the process and worked in the process of names. And you saw the iterations of what they produced. They had first, they took a large laundry list of names, about 1,200 names. And those names came from lots of sources, the community, the Augusta Chronicle, suggestions from staff, lots of stuff. That was a huge list of names, about 1,200 names, and they whittled them down to about 25 or so reasonable names that they felt the work team, could work with. And then they began the process of doing lots of testing with those names. And again, we need to be very clear that the issue of branding that has been brought out in the Buras Institute is something we felt was needed. While there are lots of reasons why we choose or do not choose a name, and certainly a national perspective is one of them, we certainly didn't want to start putting names forward, or at least the work team did not, that actually were names that were bad nationally. If they were, neutral or were positive, pretty good. If they were really bad nationally, probably not a good idea. So they brought out a list of 6 names that you all commented on, the community did, et cetera. They weren't really very popular. They weren't popular to me. Again, I have to tell you that I don't, we, the consolidated work group, did not micromanage the process. The work team did the work because it was very complicated. So we came out with a list of 6. We tested those, not very good. We came back and did another series of 5 or 6 names that were tested. Again, some are good, some are not so good. And we finally, the work team came up with a list of 3 names. That came to the consolidated work group. The 3 names, as you know, were University of Augusta, Georgia Arts and Sciences University, and Georgia Regents University. Now again, some of them were branded pretty good nationally. Others were just intermediate. In other words, were neutral. You could create an image. We didn't include any name in that group that really had bad national branding, because that would have been a difficult alternative. So the consolidated work group looked at those final recommendations from the work team. We approved them. There were a lot of logic behind why those names were chosen, and that was sent then to the Board of Regents. Now the big question that people have is, what basically, did I as president do after that? And I will tell you that my job, I want you to understand this very clearly, I work for 18 regents, a chancellor, that actually are all my bosses. My job is always to keep them abreast and clear on issues. You never, and I think all of you who have bosses know, you never ever do things that you do not make sure they are kept abreast of, okay? So we meet with them regularly. I meet with my regents regularly, whether by phone or in person, however it is. Sometimes I like by person if I can, but frankly, they all live all over the state. And so we meet with them regularly, whether it's about name changes, whether it's about consolidation, whether it's about buildings that we need to build, whether it's about changes in the structure of the hospital, whatever it is, we need to meet with them, and that is my job. Now, it was even more important in my job as the chairman of the Consolidated Work Group to make sure that they knew basically the rationale and the pros and cons for any of the names. So I met or called every one of these regions and said, these are the pros and cons of the names that you need to be aware of. They make their decisions. You're underestimating the level of intellectual capacity, the level of dedication that these individuals put into making their decisions. So at the end of the day, that is my job, has always been my job, and I would be failing as president if I did not keep my Board of Regents and my chancellor abreast of the pros and cons of the names submitted by the Consolidated Work Group, which I chair. At the end of the day, though, regents make their own decisions, and I can tell you, on many occasions, they don't agree with the presidents, or they simply, think something different is appropriate. Talk about buildings. There's lots of things that I like to convince the regents to build here, or other presidents would like to build in their universities, that they don't always agree, and that is the nature of the job. So that is the process. The regents had to choose one name. That means that whoever else was going to be disappointed, and they did that. And as I understand it, they're finalized in their decision. I understand that there is unhappiness in the community. I also understand that change is difficult. But I also am here to tell you that we are all, this president, Dr. Kinney, the regents, the chancellor, are committed to building an incredibly great institution in Augusta today. But we're going to all have to come back together about this. We're going to have to understand that we couldn't get all three names. I sometimes joke with my staff that maybe we should have just had a long litany of names, one across. I think the Augusta Chronicle had something in that regard as a joke. But the reality is we couldn't do that. We need to have a name as we move forward to consolidation. The deadline's October 1st for submission to SACS and before that. So I wanted to put that out there because there's certainly a tremendous amount of one-sided coverage of this, and I want you to get the facts directly. It's a sad time when we have to hear things indirectly, and so you need and you deserve to hear this directly. But there was, again, no manipulation. People say, well, if Augusta wasn't going to be the name, why didn't they tell me in advance? I didn't know that. Nobody knew that. In fact, the day I went to the Regents for the Board of Regents vote, we did not know what the outcome was going to be. Now, Dr. Benita Jacobs at North Georgia, when she showed up at her consolidated name, she didn't know either. And in fact, the Regents chose a name that was not even on the list. They chose another name. They decided they didn't like that names that were submitted, and they were going to do something different. So that is the process. There's nothing covert. There's nothing secretive. At the end of the day, a choice had to be made. They made their choices. Do I disagree with it? I do not. But that's actually not for me to decide either way. So, thought I'd start out our forum with that clarification, since it seems that may be on some of your minds. Dr. Kinney?
Just those who want to ask questions, if you will go to or raise your hands and the mics will come to you unless you're really right in the middle of a row and they can't get to you. It's very hard to see from here up there, but I do see some movement. Yes, sir.
Hi, Dr. Kinney. I'll go first. Dr. Aziz, Dr. Kinney, thank you for your investment in Augusta higher education. As someone who grew up in Augusta, I'm glad this is Augusta and not perhaps Macon or Savannah. I look forward to what's going to happen here. My question is about student achievement on this campus. You mentioned low freshman graduation rates. And particularly, I'd like to ask about new student convocation. Around campuses all across the nation, that's being done this week. It's a rite of passage into academic university for students. It can inspire students. We saw in the headline today what happened at Payne yesterday with Dr. Bradley inspiring students there. In many campuses, it's required. Florida State is required. It's required at USC-Aiken. Unfortunately, we don't even have it on, do that on our campus. Do you foresee that we'll be having a new student convocation come next year?
So I'm going to answer a little bit, but I really do want Dr. Kinney to answer some of this. We do have challenges in retention and graduation rates. I don't want to quote them directly because I think Dr. Kinney can address that better, but there are significant challenges to both graduation and retention at ASU, in particular, not because I'm picking on ASU, but because this is where we are today. It's different than the health sciences because we don't have new freshmen. But we have to do everything in our power beginning now, and Dr. Kinney has some wonderful ideas about how do we bring students into this new institution, how do we retain them, how do we stimulate them to actually become very enthusiastic. I think that idea is a superb idea. We do that, in fact, around, say, for example, medicine. We have what is called a white coat ceremony, which I actually flew down last week to be the keynote speaker in Florida. And we give them a white coat at the beginning of their medical school to really make them enthusiastic about being a medical student. We should do the same around certainly university students, but we need to create other things, pipeline programs, honor programs. It needs to be something where we now need to have these students say, I want to be there and I want to stay there. But that's a great suggestion, but I'm going to have Dr. Kinney, who's actually much more expert in this than I.
Yeah, we, every university in America is looking toward increasing, improving their graduation rates. And that, can you hear me? Is this thing working?
Yes.
That is certainly true here as everywhere else. And that's going to be a focus of mine this fall. As you know, I am here till January, so I've got to work fast. But I also think the question that you asked was a question about convocation. And I think that is a terrific idea. I think it really does, that kind of aura of joining the academic world, coming into a very new phase of your intellectual life is very important to people. And thank you for the suggestion, because we will work on it for next fall.
Right. Very good.
I am really having trouble.
I think right here in the
Right
center.
here, okay.
Good day. I'm Ann Sherman, a lifetime resident of Augusta. I have the delightful duty of restoration of a cemetery here. And for that reason, I've become involved in history, particularly around the medical college, because the cemetery hosts the ancestors of the Eves. And Joseph Adams Eve co-founded the medical college with Dr. Milton Anthony. I don't know if all of you know it, maybe some of you do, but the Academy of Richmond County was actually the original entity for government in Augusta. And then, as the medical college was established 200 years ago, they were on land that belonged to Richmond Academy. And then you come along and Augusta College, Junior College, was a part of Richmond Academy. And the first 100 years, the Medical College of Georgia is just about 200 years old. It was first the Medical Academy of Georgia. And then it became, I'm not exactly sure when it became the Medical College of Georgia, but that's not important. The important thing is that for about 100 years, this community begged for assistance from the state for the medical college and did not receive it. So the people that were the forebears of the medical college worked under awful conditions, as you can imagine. Those were the days when you hauled horses to the river to get rid of them when they were dead. No plumbing, no electricity. And I think it's important that we not forget our past. It's very important, and also it's important that we keep something that identifies this community in the names of these institutions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. So let me answer that a little bit, because I am actually very concerned about what you said as well. You know, I am, for most of you who actually know me, very interested in preserving the history of our institution. And in fact, since I arrived here, we produced the first video on the history of the Medical College of Georgia, and we produced a second book, in fact, the first book produced by the Medical College of Georgia on the history of the Medical College of Georgia that was edited by Dr. Lois Ellison. So we do need to do that. I am actually, to be fair, a little surprised that for an institution that is 185 years old, which is the Medical College of Georgia, and one that may actually, if you, depending on how you trace the origin, be even older in the Augusta State University, we don't have a museum or museums. We don't have an exhibit. We don't have a pictorial book of the history. I mean, University Hospital, our friends across the street, have a beautiful entity. And so, in fact, I have tasked a group which now is under a new vice president for communication and marketing, who just arrived a week ago, and we dropped them behind, you know, the firestorm, to actually come up with a plan to ensure that we do that. Because while we need to look to the future and understand that the future is different than the past, and we do not want to drive looking at the rearview mirror, we must understand and honor our past. And I'm going to need everybody's help, because we do not have these kind of museums already established, and it's a problem because we are losing our memory. So, very good, and I appreciate you saying that.
Yes, sir.
My name is Bob Hester. I'm a triple stakeholder in Augusta State because I live on McDowell Street, not a 5-minute walk from here. I graduated in 2010 with a BA in music, and I'm currently a student at Augusta State in history. I understand the process that the Regents went through in selecting this name. If they had selected something with Augusta in it, everybody here would be all smiles today, but I am not, sir. I am not.
Dr. Aziz, did you want to speak to that?
No, I mean, I actually took that to be an applause for me, but, you know, all I can tell you is, at the end of the day, the Regents made the decision that they did. I'm not going to pretend here that I disagree. No, University of Georgia is not the University of Athens. Georgia State is not the University of Atlanta. So all I'm saying is, I understand your frustration. I wish there was a way to do that, because we have a great golf program that we heard about today that has the name Augusta attached to it. And we need to find a way to preserve the name of Augusta as we move to a national level. But I also understand that we cannot just have always a local name. And all I can tell you is, I didn't make that decision. The Regents did. They viewed it with one way. They are seeing this today. This institution, which until now has primarily served the local community, they're seeing this as a statewide entity. But I don't disagree that there is the frustration. And I don't disagree, and I fully understand that there is this angst, and there's nothing I can do personally about it except to try to find ways to continue and to ensure that the memory of our institution, the memory of our history, the memory of Augusta, and the value of Augusta is highlighted. Having said that, this university will be of value to the state of Georgia, to the region of the Southeast, and to the nation, but it will be based in Augusta. We should never, ever, ever forget that what we are doing today is creating a future for the state of Georgia in Augusta. And that is something we should all be very, very proud of and very excited about.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for being here, Dr. Aziz. My name is David Steele. And I'm a former student, a graduate of Augusta College, and sent my children here, lecture here every semester in the business school. And I want to say to you first off that afterwards, if you'd like, I'll take you to the museum on campus, on the corner if you'd like to see it. That the Boardman family so generously built to help us preserve our memory. Now, I also learned critical thinking when I was a student here. And I think that we are not so naive as to think that the Board of Regents made this decision. They made a decision to back you up. They brought you in here as a change agent. And I have no doubt that you're a good one. I was at the Rotary Club when you made the comment about us not being cool in Augusta. And I agree with you, perhaps we're not cool enough. But many of us love Augusta, and we love the history of Augusta, and we love the history of this institution. All you need to do is make one phone call. First off, you need to be able to be the kind of leader that can admit a mistake, similar to what happened with Laney Walker. You've got a good idea, but it was a flawed execution of that idea. And this process has been flawed as well. First off, the Board of Regents, from their own comments, have said they were presented with one choice. You made an assumption from the very beginning that Augusta could not be used in the title because somehow it didn't confer a statewide institution. It's a flawed premise. I participated in a 4-year working group with a $3 billion corporation to name a new business. I know how hard it can be. And even after that name was made, we faced a lot of criticism. But I'm interested in knowing what kind of leader you're going to be. Are you going to be able to be a strong, thick-skinned change agent who also has the grace to admit a mistake and rectify it?
So I appreciate the question, so I appreciate the opportunity to respond to that. Let me be very clear. Being in leadership positions is tough, and one has to make tough decisions. And it is not a comfortable time when your own community, because I am part of this community, turns on you. So let me be very clear. We did not make a mistake. The branding team and its people did not make a mistake. We presented the options. I have the right to have my own thoughts and opinions. But you are underestimating severely the ability of the regions to consider all factors in making their decision. I will simply tell you that if we continue on our path of simply saying to the regents, you were nothing more than a figurehead for your president, you will then begin to actually disenfranchise what we need to build the future in Augusta. My job, let me just finish, my job is to build and to work as hard, because you will not find anybody that will work as hard as I do or as hard as my team does to make sure that we can embrace the future in Augusta. Having said that, I respect that you may disagree with me, and many of you may disagree with me. I respect that. But I will say the regions made their decision based on all of the information that they felt they needed. And that's all I can tell you.
You implied in your blog and just now that somehow this community will be punished if we continue to express our opinions. First off, I think that's an insult to the regions. This institution will attract funding because of its merit as an institution, not because we decide to make an issue of this name. Several of my dear friends have said we should stop arguing over this. Tim Maughan, Brad Ustry, and others. Well, the fat lady hadn't sung yet. And the reality is that the regents did make a decision based on the recommendation you made. You have a right to express your opinion to them, but you should have given them the market research that we spent nearly $50,000 generating. They did not have all the information.
So let me be clear about this, that the regents, we're all aware of our open consolidation website. Again, my job is to communicate with them, This is not about hiding data or anything like that, regardless of what you think. Remember, I just want everybody to understand this. At the end of the day, we were trying to build a future. One name was going to be chosen. And regardless of the name, there would have been another series of contingents that would have been unhappy. All I'm saying to you is, I appreciate, I value your feelings. I understand what you're saying. I understand that you may not agree with the Regent's decision or even my perspective. But at the end of the day, one name was going to be chosen. And my understanding from many individuals is that if it wasn't that name, then they would have been satisfied with nothing else. And all I can say is one name had to be chosen. Okay. But I appreciate your perspective.
Yes.
I think they were first.
Oh, okay. Whoever was first.
My name is Catherine Rutland. I graduated from Augusta College back in the dark ages. I love this school. It gave me my livelihood, which was teaching in the Valley in South Carolina, which I also love doing. And it's because of this school I got that opportunity. I don't like this name. Nobody I know likes this name. People talk in grocery stores. The butcher came out from behind the butcher place at Publix yesterday because I had on an Augusta State shirt. We're just forgotten about. I mean, you have come here, you said in your sales pitch there in the beginning that we did not want a neutral name, and I believe that's what the Augusta Chronicle said. The $45,000 survey told you that Regents was neutral, and yet we're still going ahead with the name. Why can't you reconsider? Why can't you listen to, I think the paper said 99%, 97% of the people who live here, who sent their children to school here like me, despise.
So just to clarify a little bit, I said that we were looking for names that were either neutral or positive. We were trying to eliminate any names that were negatively branded.
Augusta's not negative. It's an international name. We have a golf tournament here. People all over the world know the name of Augusta. People I know are starting to call it regional university.
So I think we're all value the name of Augusta, particularly around the golfing and the golf world, and we need to make sure that we keep that, as I said, in ways that we haven't yet figured out. I do think that I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the Regents voted because I said so. A lot of things that unfortunately we proposed and have not really moved forward. So all I can tell you is my job is to provide information, the same information I provided to the community in my blog, and I've provided as transparently as I can over time. So all I can tell you is I understand your disappointment. I understand your anger. I do. I mean, I genuinely do understand it. You know, remember that we meaning Georgia Health Sciences University, is also losing the whole term of medical and health sciences and so on. And you know what? Our community, that university community, isn't happy either, right? I mean, they say, well, we were the bigger, we were the this, we were that. Why wasn't it just the same name? And because at the end of the day, it was a new name and a new time. So, listen, disappointment unfortunately abounds on both sides, and I respect that. I respect your opinion. All I'm simply saying is they had to choose a name, and I guess that's what they chose.
Now, you all probably know better than I who was standing next,
Yeah,
so why don't you
harder.
just handle it?
Spoken like a true president. There we go.
I used to work at MCG, and I had two daughters that learned how to swim competitively here in the Augusta State Pool, and then they finished up their careers at the City Aquatic Center. And I understand that the process that, and I agree with the process of combining the two universities. I think it's a good idea economically, and we're faced with economic times that we have to recognize and adapt to. But I think you've squandered a great capital of community involvement when you involve the community and then you thumbed your nose at what results you got back. You're a scientist. I'm a scientist. I work in a lab. The last thing I can choose as a luxury is to ignore the data. Ignore the data. So right now, this process is being reported as far as the Sacramento Bee, the Atlanta Journal and Constitution. What people find, you know, the money that you say is promised, yeah, I mean, we're asked to move on because somebody's promised us a boatload of money that's going to be coming down the road from Atlanta. And guess where it came from? A big chunk of it came out of our wallets sent to Atlanta to appropriately distribute throughout this great state. We've got 18 people that were not elected by the people of Georgia who've made a decision, and they've named it with such a high-minded title as regents. And appropriately, that's what's happened. You can take it and you can make it a verb. We have been regented here. That's what happened. 18 people that we have no way of saying to them, you know, we feel like we've been abused in this process. Except to say that if you pay attention to the Board of Regents, there is an appeal process. You need to go on the Board of Regents website and familiarize yourself with the fact that an appeal process is appropriate. And in the end, the SACS accreditation committee is going to make the final decision. And one of their hallmarks is community support. And don't be taken in by the promise of money that's coming down the road. Realize that what we have is the reality of what we have here. We have two institutions that were built, legacy institutions, supported by the good people of this side of the state. And in all of these consolidation of universities, there was a regional, there was an acknowledgement of the region. And only Augusta has been regented. That's what.
I wasn't sure if there was a question there. Was there a question there? I don't know. I just want to make sure I answer your questions, but I didn't hear one, so I apologize.
I don't want to take it, but I'm saying that the acquisition of that city pool over there that belongs to the city of Augusta, how do we trust that if you acquire that from the city of Augusta, you're going to fairly make it available to the youth groups and to the high school programs? Or, you know, you have to go forward on all these decisions that you've got on this merger based on a spirit of trust. And the people here are questioning whether or not there's trust in the air.
So, the situation of the pool simply is resources for our students and growth of the athletic programs, and I'm going to let Clint Bryan certainly handle that, so I can't speak very much to the pool or anything related to that, but we do intend to make sure that we invest not only in academics in this institution, but in athletic as well. I mean, we do need to and continue to grow the wonderful programs that Clint and his team and his coaches have built.
My name is Doug Herman, and I'm not a scientist or a doctor or educator, but I greatly admire them. I'm a business person, lived in Augusta just about all my life, and my business had a lot to do with branding. It's 40 years worth. I'm an expert in branding and marketing, and quite frankly, GRU is a terrible name as an expert. And this procedure's gotten me to greatly distrust the Board of Regents, and so therefore, after you folks one day, like Bill Bloodworth, gone on I'm wondering what's going to be left, and I'm particularly concerned as a businessman. My question is the music, the arts, the business, the accounting, on and on, the non-health sciences, are they going to still exist forevermore, is my question.
Well, if that's your question, I can certainly answer to you. We do want to grow a great university in Augusta. Remember, there is no value of any sort in consolidation if you're simply going to create a overgrown health sciences university. We already are, as GHSU, one of the largest health sciences universities in the country. The consolidation is all about providing that energy, that leverage, that investment to the students and to the faculty, really, of the non-health sciences campus. So, I can't speak for 50 years from now, but I can only tell you that our view and our goal of our team and my leadership is to make sure that we grow all of those other programs, because there is no value otherwise in the consolidation. There would be no value whatsoever.
That's absolutely right. The consolidation cannot work unless the programs, the academic programs at ASU prosper and grow. It won't amount to anything unless, it can't be done as Dr. Aziz said on the back of the medical school. This has to happen. ASU has to prosper from the consolidation, or it is a failure.
And that means all the non-health, non-medical.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Put that in the record, please. Thank you.
I've, in fact, put that in the record several times by now.
I think this person's been waiting for a while.
Okay.
I just have a quick question. You say that this college, I was a student here. I'm a junior, if I can ever get my kids in school long enough to continue to finish. But first of all, I don't want to be a group. So right now, I don't want to re-register. I wanted to graduate from Augusta State. I started when it was Augusta College, and I liked it when it changed to Augusta State. I liked it. I've bought more T-shirts in the bookstore than I've anywhere else. However, you say this Augusta University would just be a regional school, and it's not a marketable school. Are you going to tell that to Clemson, South Carolina, and Clemson University, Auburn, Alabama, and Auburn University? Both of those are very, very highly respected schools, and this school could be too. Thank you.
Who was next?
Lost track.
Sir, you keep talking about how this school, ASU, needs to grow, and you keep saying it like you don't need our community support, but we do. As a community, we're all here representing somebody that loves this school under the name that it is. I'm here to represent myself and my mom. 2 of my brothers have graduated here. The name is just dumb, and nobody likes it, and that's why we're all here. And your job is also to go back to those people and say, I was wrong.
So, I think it's very important that you understand that we do need the community support. Now, as again, I would hope that the community can move beyond the name, because the amount of challenges we have are huge. But no, we are not going to grow without necessarily community support. This is true. But the community, unfortunately, isn't just Augusta. The community is the whole state of Georgia. And so we need everybody's support if we're going to build something here in Augusta. Reminds me that a couple, 3 years ago, there was a lot of concern about the medical school moving to Athens. And the community rallied together, and, even though it didn't necessarily change the course of things, it did really rally the community behind the institution. We need to do the same thing. The future of this institution is great. It's promising. But the challenges are significant, and we do need to come together to do that. So just to answer your question, no, we do need and value community support.
Were you next?
Moving away from the subcommittee that was in charge of branding this name, how would you report on the progress of the other subcommittees on the merger details, and what would you say that great difficulties along with the merger come to in the future?
That's a good question, and I'm glad we're moving away from the one question. Because in fact, as I said, there are 75 other working committees working on everything from faculty governance to student satisfaction to academic programs and so on and so forth. I'm going to let Dr. Kinney talk a little bit about this, but at the end of the day, my understanding, because believe it or not, we're not micromanaging that process. That process is bubbling from the faculty and the students and the staff that are involved, is proceeding really well. But the devil will always be in the details. There's a lot of work to be done, and we have to work together really over the next 3, 4, 5 years to implement it. So the high-level stuff has to be ready for SACS in October, and we're pretty close to that in general. But the details of actually how to implement things will be things that we'll have to work up over the next 6 or 8 months. You know, these branding committees are equally ASU staff and GHSU staff. We've made sure that they're equally represented, even though there may be differences in number of students and difference in number of faculty, differences in budgets and so on. At the end of the day, this is a consolidation. And lots of challenges ahead. I think they're doing very, very well. They're working extraordinarily well together. But thank you for that question.
I'm the news editor for the ASU Bell Ringer. My name's Jillian Hobday. And my question is a little step back. It does have to do with what we were just talking about. But it seems like the overall consensus in this room, the community, students, faculty, ASU, and GHSU, is that it's less about the name and more that they feel that their thoughts weren't heard, that the survey wasn't listened to, that they're standing up and saying things that I heard left in the dark, abused, things like that. Those are words we should never use when dealing with something we're supposed to grow together. So I think that a question that maybe people are wondering is, how can you ensure the students, faculty, community that you will listen in the future? What can you give us to just ensure them, give them hope that they, you know, in the future they want to give you their opinion because they feel like they're going to be listened to. But right now I hear distrust, I hear abused. These are not people that are going to stand behind a school that's going to grow. I don't think it's the merger. I think the merger is good. I think the consensus is that it is good. But they can't stand behind something that they don't see. It's not clear. It's not transparent. What can you say to help these people feel better?
That's a very savvy question. So I think it's a very important one. So let me speak to this for a second. The process was followed. There were 3 names. One name was chosen for, you know, lots of reasons. At the end of the day, you all realize that if it wasn't University of Augusta, nobody here would have been happy about it. Okay? But I have to remind you that at the end of the day, of the 3 names that were submitted, who here would have liked Georgia Arts and Sciences University? So the point I'm simply saying is the issues of trust is going to be an important factor. We are working hard to develop the strength of this institution, of this ASU programs, and also the GHS programs. We need to actually build those together as we move forward. I can't tell you anything that today is going to change your opinion, and I recognize that. But at the end of the day, there are decisions that have to be made, and they're not all made by the president. I do follow what my bosses say, but at the end of the day, their vision for this institution and for this community is to truly grow, provide greater value to students, greater value to faculty, a greater array of academic programs. Most of that, by the way, is going to be growth in the non-health sciences, right? I mean, there's not very much we can grow in the health sciences, but it's going to be in the non-health sciences. So So all I can tell you is that is what I'm committed to, have been committed to, and have been working toward.
Yes.
My name's Frank Vaughn. I'm a member of the Augusta Music Conservatory. I just got back from Ireland. My mother went to school here and got her master's degree in remedial reading. And I just want to know why anybody should believe a word you say when you say that Augusta can't pass the cool factor. I know what Augusta is. Now, I have another question for you. Do you consider yourself an educator?
I do, yes.
Then how come you've got all this extra time to go bumming around with people like Deke Copenhaver and Cal Ripken, who all they got on their mind is a baseball park and the location of it, and taking over property here and there? Now, if you were an educator, in my mind, you would not have much extra time to be fooling around with politicians that are daydreaming about things that don't even need to happen. You would be considering the things that people, when you take a survey and $45,000 later, people, everybody in Augusta said, we want Augusta in the name. And then you care, you stand right here to my face, and you tell me you care about what we say, and then you turn around and say, we care, like as in trust me? Really? Do you expect anybody in this facility to believe a word you say? Now, if the name needed changing to keep anything from going to Athens, all they had to do was get the Georgia State Senate to get off their butts and pass a law saying that the Medical College of Georgia was going to stay in Augusta, Georgia, and that ASU was going to stay right where it is, and you could still merge the two or whatever. But the name change, if I had a heart attack, I wouldn't be telling anybody, say, let's see, take me to Georgia Science Health. I'd be going, take me to university. I wouldn't be going, take me to see Dr. Aziz, that's for sure. Gee, are you nuts?
Thank you.
If I can, we have 4 people at the mics now, and we have about 5 minutes left in the forum. So if we can just hear from these 4 people.
My question is for anybody in this room or anybody in the city of Augusta, what is the price of heritage and legacy?
So I will tell you that all I can tell you is that I appreciate what you're saying. You know, the Medical College of Georgia has a name that, as you know, is very ancient as well. And unfortunately, it was also a name that did not reflect who they were at that particular time. We've tried very hard to preserve it. The medical school, of course, is still the Medical College of Georgia, which is good. But that legacy, right, is one that had to be changed so that the legacy of the reality of its education, of its training, and so on had to be preserved. So I feel the pain of not being able to keep all the legacies exactly the way they are. We just need to remember to honor them, to fit them into our plans, to do what we can.
Excuse me, one little part. Just a few minutes ago, you mentioned that you wish that Augusta could be in the name, that there would be a good branding for Augusta, and by taking the name out, that helps?
I think that there's lots of opportunities. For example, let me just explain. So the Medical College of Georgia was considered to be the name of the university, as you know. But the problem is, of course, it was also the name used for the medical school, the School of Medicine. So in that situation, we actually kept the name Medical College of Georgia for the School of Medicine, even though there's a larger university name, in this case Georgia Health Sciences University on top of that. But the school, the one that people really embraced, the physicians if you would, was kept and renamed to be officially the Medical College of Georgia. This is just an example of how we're trying to preserve heritage while moving forward. So, but I don't disagree, it's complex.
Next.
Hey, my name's Rhonda. I'm from Augusta, Georgia. I attended AC, 78, 79. Before that, my dad graduated from the Medical College of Georgia. He was at Athens. I transferred from here and went to Athens. I've always kind of thought of this as being a smaller part of the larger system anyway. I love the state of Georgia, okay? I love Augusta. We have a lot to be proud of here in this city, and I guess you can tell how much we love Augusta.
And let me tell you, one of the greatest values we have is the passion the city of Augusta engenders in its citizens. That is a fabulous thing that we need to leverage.
Well, and we do. In the religious communities, all around the CSRA, so many faiths started in this country, in our city. We've got a lot to be proud of. It is also true that Augusta has international recognition. We've got a golf course. So to try to tell people that, we're not internationally recognized and people don't know who Augusta is, well, that's not true because we already have that international recognition. Nonetheless, I've always felt like we're a small part of a larger system. I was fortunate enough to work for Delta Airlines out of Atlanta and have traveled a good bit with them and worked for them 18 years. I was proud of that great company that came out of the state of Georgia. I'm a Georgia girl. I think that so much has been brought together with this consolidation. I've been very positive about it. I welcome your leadership, Dr. Aziz. Immediately with this consolidation endeavor, you opened up channels of communication. I have followed your blog. I've blogged on it myself. Some of you may have read it. I'm proud of what we're doing. I think we have a lot here in Augusta to extend to the world. I think the state of Georgia is very proud of what we've done here in Augusta. They want to put their money into it. They want to claim you. They want to say this is what we have in our state and make it happen. They're excited just like we are. I think that we can move forward. I welcome this opportunity. I've been excited about it from day one. And I would like for everyone else to recognize this opportunity also and move forward. And I don't want you to leave thinking that I like the name, okay? I welcome your leadership. Having gone outside of Augusta and traveled around and come back, there's sometimes a perspective an outsider can bring. I know that there's some spots on this campus that have absolutely remained the same and not changed in 30 years. And that, makes me feel right at home. But at the same time, I'm wondering why some kind of change hasn't been brought into this picture. And, excuse me. And an outsider can sometimes do that, can see what we all are so comfortable and familiar with might need a little change. So I welcome the opportunity, and I didn't want you to leave here today without hearing that, okay? Thank you.
I received specific instructions. Mike, do not raise any questions. But here I am. And I guess the question I have, of course, I heard this term branding used several times, and I have some idea what branding's all about. I just sort of wonder, how did the branding committee believe that Georgia Regents College would be something that people would, for example, begin to hear, associate with Georgia, well, with Georgia, yes, but with this part of the country, or would they just think it was one of those new colleges that just created just a few weeks ago? How long will it take for Georgian Region College to become something, university, to become something that people throughout, not just Georgia, but other parts of the world really recognize? Is that a 6 months project, a year project, a 5-year project, a 10-year project, before that name really catches on and people say, oh yeah, I know about that? I just kind of wonder about that. I kind of wonder what your opinion is about this branding and how long it will take for this to become something that people recognize and identify.
So I appreciate that question. I will tell you that's one that keeps me awake at night. So let me just tell you a little bit about it. At the end of the day, we had a list of names that came from the work team. You know, they did their work. They did a lot of work. We can sit here and debate the quality of the names and so on and so forth. You know, at the end of the day, it is the list that we got, and it was the list that was selected. But now starts the hard job. Regardless of what you had put the name as, you now need to begin to build a whole new brand. And that's a decade-long experience, or at least, if not 20. I mean, this is a long process where we need to actually invest in getting your name out. Remember that even when we were Medical College of Georgia, and I can say this because I've had to deal with this, Medical College of Georgia was a name that had been on and off for 185 years, obviously more off than on, but that had been pretty continuously since 1950. But yet, if you moved away, the number of people, at least in academia and faculty and students, who said, I know what is at Medical College of Georgia, I know we have more than a medical school, even in Athens, even in Columbia, even in Savannah. It was amazing when you'd go to people and say, you know, we got a big university there, and they say, what? You have more than a medical school? Because we have never spent the time in branding. So the reality is, it's a concerted effort, it's a concerted investment of time that there's not a lot of resources. But it's going to take a decade or 20 years. You're absolutely right. Regardless of the name that it would have been, it would have had to do that. The other possibility is to actually have chosen a name of one of the two institutions, right? Either call it Georgia Health Sciences University and just take it all together, or call Augusta State and take it all together. But that would have been something that, in fact, we all agreed to at the beginning would not happen, right? We didn't want to depict the takeover, okay, regardless of how people feel about it. So we had to choose a new name, but it's a 10, 20-year process, I think. And that's why finally we have a new Vice President for Communication Marketing. Kathy is here on the ASU campus. They're going to tell you that turning anybody's image around the state, the nation, and beyond, it's a long-term process.
Okay.
Okay, final question.
My name is Tan, and I've been going to Augusta State for a while, and I love the school. I love the campus, the professors, everything about what this school has to offer. But being an Augusta State student, I've heard the majority of them do not like Georgia Regents University. If at the end of the day, our opinions doesn't really matter, and it is what it is, could we talk to somebody that can change that? Because the polls on WJBF says 97% of people do not like it. I've seen the email that was forwarded of the list of names that were offered, and Georgia Regents was one of the lowest names rated. I mean, if you don't like University of Augusta, what about Georgia's Art and Science University? But then people don't like GHSU. So why don't we just change the acronyms to GSAU then? But anything except Georgia Regents. That's all I'm saying.
I want to thank all of you for coming. I want to thank all of you for caring so much. And I appreciate you staying a little bit late. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.